participation. So the buy and build now has about 205K in it. The buy and burn has, including the fractal, I guess that would be 440, about $440,000, which is nuts. And we're just getting started on the stats. Current day payout is $876,000 with 98,885 Torus. The burn total, we're all the way up to 1,590 tokens. And the liquid supply is down only to 2,383. And if we actually go to Etherscan, we can see that the largest holder at the moment, liquid, only has about 300 tokens, which is not more than $3,000 at this point. So there is really no one that can damage this chart that currently has any tokens whatsoever, which is insane. And I mean, if you include the fact the buy and burn, people have been engaging the buy and burn, you can see like $100 got called recently. There's a $14 call, a $13 call. And this keeps happening. I believe this should be the buy and burn. Actually, some of these people are actually just buying and let me see this. What are you doing? Oh, this is a contract. This is one of the Torus contracts. So basically the buy and burn's just been chugging away and it's fantastic. Just holding the price up. No one can really damage the price that even has any supply right now. We're kind of in the clear for quite a while, which is pretty wild to say for only day 15. The total shares in the system are 2.18 billion. The total TitanX burnt is now up to over 153.7 billion TitanX. That's insane for only day 15. Now, if we're not even completed day 15 yet. We're actually in the process of completing here in the next few hours. And if we go over to the create stats and we look at how everything's doing, currently $1,900 in TitanX creates $8,600 in Torus. So 10 billion TitanX creates 988.85 Torus with 7.66 million shares. And we also have, if you guys haven't seen on the site yet, we have the total ROI, which is 15,997 at the moment based on the current prices and the yield, as well as now we have a daily ROI. And this daily ROI is not meaning that if you've earned $2,000 to now and you're up to, let's say, a couple $2,500 or 10,000 or whatever you're up to in terms of your total ROI, this is not meaning every day you're earning that amount again. This means that if you put in $100, right, and you saying the daily estimated ROI is 181%, that means daily you're going to be earning $181.79, not compounded. But we felt that this daily amount was great so people could come here and understand exactly what the next day's estimate is likely to be. And this is more likely to be the most accurate on a day-to-day because you're going to see the least fluctuation daily. Over time, the fluctuation is really going to show its face because more and more participation is going to lead to future days being less and less and less. But the next day's ROI is most likely to be relatively accurate. So that's huge. I think that update was fantastic going to the daily ROI. Current ROIs for single day or for first day creations are sitting around almost 30x basically, which is nuts. It's just mind-boggling to me. So again, make sure you guys are out there sharing your ROIs. And let's see what other stats we have here. So yeah, we've crossed the $801,000 mark. We now have 69.29 total ETH that has entered the system. Let's go to TitanX stats actually and see where we're at for the total TitanX put into the system, not including what will come in with ETH. Where are we here? 2.8 trillion. We are climbing so fast. It is insane. We have 2.2 trillion within the protocol. We've burned 153 billion, like I said, and we now have 442 billion in liquidity. Man, this blows my mind to see this climb so fast. So basically, if we go to day 30, we're about 6 trillion TitanX in the protocol, and we have 300 billion. We're basically burning 10 billion a day at this point, is what it seems like. And that's not including, or I guess the burning is including the ETH, but this total 2.8 trillion TitanX is actually not including the ETH that's in the system. And there is a grand total of 162,000 plus 42. So there's basically $200,000 in ETH sitting in these contracts for essentially another trillion TitanX. So if we add that trillion, because I'm looking at the buy and burn amount, and $194,500 gets you 993 billion TitanX. So if we bump this up to or to 200K, it's over a trillion. So if we go back over to the TitanX stats, we're basically sitting at 3.8 trillion TitanX that will be in the system, or have come in the system in some way, shape, or form, which is bonkers for day 15. So, I mean, if we look at it like that, really, we're going to overtake Hyper within the first 60 days. I mean, at the rate that we're going, it's just absolutely bananas. I mean, we could overtake Hyper, we could overtake Shogun, and possibly even Ouroboros by day 89. It's very possible at the rate we're going, anyways. And obviously, things are not necessarily going to keep going, but that is absolutely insane. And if we think about this in terms of with the current participation is actually kind of low. It's static, but it's low. And actually, today was the first time we cracked basically any of the previous days. So we actually went up to 37 creations, which over the past number of days since day 10, we've had 35 on day 10, 36 on 11, 32 on day 12, 34, 34, and then now 37. So we've actually slight uptick in creations, but still 30 some odd creations is not that high considering the first number of days we were having like 100, 130. We had 289 on day 1. We had 66 on day 6. We had 91 on day 5 and so on. So stakes are now stagnant, which I actually did expect because people are learning about creations. I think this is people kind of understanding the game here, but we're flatlining and we're still getting a decent amount of participation that's coming in the system like daily. And if you look at the supply, it's actually interesting. The days like 100 and like 98, 99, well, 99 onward are actually becoming fairly significant days where now there's 400,000 tokens coming out in day 98.9. There is 385,000 tokens coming out on day 100. Most of these are from creations. Very, very, very few are coming from staked Torus as well. So there is some decent economic energy coming into the system. And this is why we're seeing this massive lowering of the day 89 supply shock day that we have seen people, or we've talked about many, many times. And at the moment, we're about halfway through 2.2 million. So we are moving quite quickly. I really think that we're going to crack under the 2 million mark within the next few days. And like I said before, I think as Unity starts to get more marketing over probably the next like week or two, we'll start ramping that up because Unity is launching fairly soon. I do believe this will crank up on Torus because every time I have to talk about Unity, I'll have to showcase it with Torus because there is no Unity testnet. There is nothing that people can see other than go to Torus. So this is going to be huge marketing for Torus, in my opinion. And especially when people are participating in Unity, I am expecting more participation. And that means lower ROI. And, people tend to go where the ROIs are. I am kind of expecting some people, though, the point of all this is not to like draw people away from Pulse Chain. The point is, I think just with people looking at the ROIs and seeing that Unity is awesome, they love Unity and they want more ROI, they're going to be inclined to come over to Torus. And because of that, I can foresee a lot more participation starting to ramp up once Unity starts getting some more marketing. That's how I foresee things going, especially if Unity comes out, ripping and people really love it. And there's lots of economic energy coming in. People are seeing some of the ROIs. It should be really cool. So this is great for now because it means that all you in the system are going to get the lion's share of the supply. But, we could see this absolutely plummet. Like if people by day 40, 50 start really coming in and piling into the system, well, we could see this day 89 supply shock drop tremendously to below 1 million. If that's the case, well, that's basically almost a 60% drop. And what that would, or it'd be over 60% drop. And therefore we could see these tokens that are coming out on day 103 and sooner all the way up to 99 also drop by about 90 or about 60% potentially, which means we would see less than 250,000 tokens on day 103. And all these other days would be significantly less, which I think is fantastic. And it's a recipe for success, in my opinion. It's really cool to see this system operating in the way that it is. Oh, what else can I go on here? Yeah, so if we look on TitanX Hub, we are creeping up on Phoenix. We're about 17 billion away from taking over Phoenix in the number 14 spot for most burnt TitanX. If we go to the, where is it here? 24 hours. Torus is in the number 2 position at up 3.18%. If we go to market cap, where are we here? Market cap, we're about middle of the pack because we're so low right now, but that's going to jump. Honestly, it won't shock me when market cap jumps very quickly ahead of the majority, if not pretty much all of TitanX of the ecosystem. And that's just mainly because how much supply is coming out, the current price, and the price where things become more stable. So this is all by design too. So this is great. Volume, we're quite low. Liquidity, we're in there. We're number 60, or no, we're top probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11. We're 12th in liquidity. That'll grow very quickly. And yeah, I think this is mostly where we're at the moment. Did I hear someone open their mic? Anyone have any questions?
Yeah, I had a question. Morning. Let's see. So can you talk about token supply and how it's released for the first 88-day period, and then what happens on day 89 and thereafter?
So when you're saying what happens to supply, are you just meaning, can you be a little more precise with that, just so I know exactly what you're saying?
I'm just talking about how the tokens are released, and you talked about like the supply dropping to 60%, dropping 60%, and I'm wondering what happens on day 89, or because I know it's only 88-day creation stake, whatever, like what happens after that initial 88-day period with the token supply. Is there more released on the day 89? How does it work?
Yeah, so the days that you're seeing, if you're on the Dune dashboard, the days that have those blue bars, every single one of those days has supply coming out. So on day 89 is going to be the largest by far. But if day 89 comes and all of those people, well, I shouldn't say if, but let's talk about that day specifically. When that day comes, everyone that's going to be that has created on day 1 is going to have the ability to claim their tokens. And when that happens, that's not a guarantee that people are going to sell. It's not a guarantee people are going to stake. It's not a guarantee of anything, right? So what we're going to have to just simply watch is what happens. And the great thing about this system is that, like I've said, the system operates best in terms of what can have the thickest liquidity. It's operating optimally, is around, the 10 to 20 million to 1 ratio. And currently we're about 45 million to 1. So we're quite high. So this would actually be possibly a good thing if systemically, if the price comes down a little bit. I mean, the ROIs will still be quite high because, I mean, even if you're sitting on, let's say, like a 3,000% return right now, by day 89, I mean, this actually would be roughly about 14, 13, 15,000% ROI, somewhere in there by that date if things continue, which means that even if the price came down by a factor of 3, which means we would come down to about 15 million TitanX per Torus, you'd still be sitting at over 5,000% ROI, which is over a 50x, right?
Okay.
And at that,
okay, yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm trying to wrap my head around. Okay, so what's the total amount of tokens that are ever going to be made and how are they released? Like, how are they distributed or released into the contract initially? That's what I'm getting at. And is it going to be like a certain amount of time and then more tokens are released from that overall supply?
Yeah, so every single day, basically the max supply is about 125 million, and it will probably end up being less than that. So the thing is, and the interesting thing about the supply is that in the first 88 days, 8.5 million tokens can be captured. But as people are coming into the system, and let's say they're doing 88 days from day 20, right? They're taking some of that initial supply that could have come out, let's say on day 89, if only people created on day one, and they're actually moving some of that, their portion of that, into the future. So right now, if we go to the Dune dashboard, and we can see that the future max Torus supply is 10,111 or 118,705. That number is not coming out on day 89. It's not coming out cumulatively day 95. If no one else creates right now into the future, all the way to day 103, we would see basically this 10,118,000 supply coming out cumulatively up to day 103. But the more people come in, the more this kind of defers that supply and the future supply further and further and further out, which means, this 10 million tokens is not coming out in a single day. This is coming spread out over the first 103 days. And as this number grows, because it does grow daily, right, by like 90 some odd thousand, depending on which day we're on, and it's obviously going to decline, this will continue to be added to into the future and then also deferred out further into the future. Is that making sense? Is this helping answer your question at all?
Yeah. I think you already answered half of my question. So I guess the other half of my question was after this initial 88 days or 89 days, let's say day 90 and after, are the tokens that people are, I guess, utilizing in the contract, are these just from creations and stakes, or are tokens, or like, is there like a repository where tokens are sitting so that when there's a demand for them, they just pull them out of that contract, or they pull them out of wherever it's located? You know what I mean? Is
Well,
it like a time
yeah.
release?
Well, it's basically a mint function that the system has. And Scott, you might be able to actually, if you're available, you might be able to explain this a little better than I can. So please forgive me if I absolutely butcher this. But essentially, the system will have like an allocated amount to mint you based on what the system sees each day in terms of how many shares you have relative to everyone else, and then how many tokens are to be distributed, allocated within the system. But this is all just basically theoretical math that is allocated per person. And then on the day of creation, on the day of claiming, right, then those tokens are actually minted. So there's no like vault where all the tokens sit per se. There is a potential that the system is keeping track of. And then as you get to your claim day, then you can actually mint all of those tokens, and you have 14 days to do so. But let's say you go into your penalty period and you have some of your tokens removed, not your principal, but some of your earned tokens. The system will just not mint those tokens for you, and it will redistribute those potentially future minted tokens to everybody else that's in the system. But there's no like storage unit per se, or like a vault in that sense. It's just like a future potential. But yeah, Scotty, please save me if I'm butchering this.
No, I wanted to just say you nailed it. That's exactly right.
Okay,
Sweet.
Yeah, so it's user driven.
Right. The tokens only are minted when a user claims them. If they don't claim them or they incur penalties, then those penalties simply aren't minted, and half of them get pushed out into the future reward pools.
Got you. Thank you. I appreciate those answers.
Of course, man. Anytime. Thank you, Scotty.
No problem.
You're up early too, by the way.
I am.
Oh man. What was I going to say? Yeah. Well, thanks for the question, Johnny. anyone else have anything on that note? I'd love to hear from you guys. And the feedback, what you're finding. Any more questions about the contracts or questions about Torus itself? I guess we could also talk about the post I made this morning in here talking about the LP providing and the possibility of, you know, if you're concerned about day 88 or 89, I guess. However, you also potentially want to DCA in and earn possibly a bunch of fees. You know, one thing that you could consider, and I'm not, you know, condoning or saying that you should do this, but this is another opportunity within the system, is that if you do hold or want to hold and utilize a decent amount of TitanX, or, you know, however much that is to you, then what you could actually do is you could provide liquidity single-sided underneath the Torus TitanX price, and you could place that within a range that you think the price will drop to. And as price drops, and if there is significant sell pressure, then you will see a fairly tremendous amount of fees, because if you are in this pool, you're earning 1% of the total volume as an LP provider. And that means that if there's $1 million in sell pressure, you know, not only are you going to be DCAing as people, you know, take the TitanX that you've put in the pool and give you Torus, but you're also going to be earning a bunch of fees on that. And for every $1 million in volume, LP providers are sharing $10,000 in fees. And that adds up real quick. And so over the course of 89 to about 103, there potentially could be a bunch of sell pressure. And if the buy and burn and the buy and build are running, I mean, you could also be seeing a ton of buy pressure and volume running that way. So just food for thought on other strategic ways to utilize this system. I mean, it goes far beyond just creating and staking. And once the system stabilizes, liquidity is going to be a very important secondary place to earn revenue, earn fees, passive income without actually selling your bag or doing anything like that. So just wanted to put that out there for you guys to think about, because it is likely, not guaranteed, but it's likely that due to the tokens coming out, you know, at some point price is going to come out or come down. It's that I can almost guarantee, but what I can't guarantee is how much. So I don't know if you guys have any questions about that, or you want to talk about the LP side of things, but I'll throw that out there and see how you guys are feeling about it.
Well, I guess my initial question was, I'm assuming it's on Uniswap.
Correct.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, Uniswap v3. So you would go to app.uniswap.org. You can either type in the contract address, or not type in, but you can copy the address from Uniswap, or you can just type in or copy just the token contract address and paste that into the search bar. It'll pull up Torus. You can just go to the pools, add liquidity, the TitanX Torus, and then you can select your range and be able to place your liquidity under the price, exactly where you think it's going to be. And it's a fairly simple process. It takes a little bit to understand, you know, maybe the ratios, but I'm happy to answer any questions if anyone is interested in learning more about this, because it could be, it's a cool play, you know, very cool play.
Yeah, I would love, because I'm not an expert in liquidity providing, but would be great to know, maybe to have a video on that. And I would not sell the tokens and earn. And why not? If that even helps the system, I would like to do it.
Right. Well, I can definitely make a video, because there's a lot of considerations. If you're doing it to DCA essentially into Torus, you know, you want to buy Torus, but you don't want to actually swap, and you want to get a good deal, and you want to earn a little bit of fees. You don't want to deal with slippage. Single-sided liquidity under price is kind of like putting a limit order, because essentially what you're doing is, if you can imagine the price is where it is now at 45 million TitanX to one Torus. As price comes down, let's say you put your range at 20 million, and you just have like you stacked all of your TitanX at 20 million. If price comes down and it crosses and hits that 20 million mark, now people are essentially selling their Torus and taking the TitanX that you have in there. And essentially what you're doing is all of that TitanX that you have, if the price were to drop below let's say your range was 18 million to 20 million, right? And let's say the price went all the way below, all the way down to 17 million. Now, because the price has gone through the range that you've provided, what this means is you're going to be left with only Torus, and everyone will have removed the TitanX in the range. So you've effectively DCA'd into Torus in that way. So you can use it as a buy order. You can also use it as a limit order where you can set the price, or you can set your Torus above the price. And as price moves into it, effectively you are selling your Torus and receiving TitanX during that period. So the liquidity can be used in that way to sell and buy without ever really selling down the price chart in the same way. And it's still affecting the price chart because, you know, when you have a wall on the high or the low side of funds, that means that price becomes more stable and harder for the price to increase or decrease in those ranges. So it still affects price, but psychologically, it's a lot more damaging for people to see a huge red candle than it is for people to see a slower green candle, right? Or, you know, the opposite is also true, right? To see a slower red candle is better than seeing a big, you know, just huge buys and sells. And it's just, you can be a little bit more discreet, essentially, which definitely helps people when they're looking at the charts. But this also comes into understanding what this concept of impermanent loss is. And this is the big thing that makes or breaks LP providing. And if you don't understand it, well, it's probably going to burn you pretty quick. But impermanent loss is how you're able to do these buy or sell orders via liquidity. So it's useful if you want it, and it's not so great if you don't want it. So impermanent loss is the effect of when you provide liquidity at a specific ratio between the two tokens. And as the ratio of those tokens moves in favor of one or the other, you're essentially having the tokens in either side restack to one side or the other based on buys and sells. What this means is, let's say you've got 100 Torus on one side and you got 100 TitanX on the other, right? As the price of Torus goes up against TitanX, people are buying up the Torus. They're taking that out of the pool, and you are receiving TitanX. But if you were to have just held those tokens, right, and Torus just went up in value, effectively what's happened is you have gained a little bit of value because you're getting more TitanX and the value of Torus is appreciating. But relative to just holding those two tokens, the value actually is not as high as you would have had you just held those two tokens. But this is where the fees come in, right? And so this can get extreme where, let's say Torus does 100x on TitanX, right? Had you just held Torus and TitanX, you would have seen the full value of those gains. But because people are essentially taking the Torus out and giving you TitanX, but TitanX isn't moving, and you only are left with some Torus, which is still appreciating significantly, you're left basically with a lot less value. And sometimes it can be like 40% less, 50% less, 30% less, 60% less than what you would have had you just held that token. And so this is why, you know, what you'll commonly hear is like you want to get into a token that has high volume with relatively low volatility. Or if there's volatility, it goes way up or way down in range and will come back up, right? And so this is something to understand, where if you're going to provide liquidity, you need to either have a lot of patience, or you need to be providing liquidity within a range that you think the system or the price relative to the two tokens is going to stay in, right? So there is a lot to do, or there is a lot to understand with liquidity providing to be very, very comfortable. And if this is kind of going over some of your guys' head, that's totally fine. This is part of the process. And I would say that maybe just continue to learn, and try it a little bit if you're really wondering how this works, you know, because the only way to really get this is to see it firsthand and experience it, and then come back and ask some questions and we talk about it. Because if you're just theoretically, you know, trying to figure this out, it is a lot harder. So yeah. That was a lot. Hopefully that makes sense.
That was a lot, but but that's the point. Thank you. I think the last advice was the best. I I already played with that a bit and lost and didn't get how it works pretty much, but I will learn it. And yeah, I have to practice. When I have a lot of money from Torus, I have some play money. No, I'm definitely learning a lot, and it's very interesting. And yeah, thank you.
Yeah, of
Oh yeah,
course.
I wanted to mention I found some older videos of yours, and maybe you already made a video on LP providing, so I will take a look on the YouTube channel.
Oh, I actually might have. I know I have one on explaining liquidity and how liquidity works. And I definitely, you know what? I think I have one explaining incentive token at one point. There's a stream I did, and that actually, you know what? Maybe I think I know exactly which one would be the one to go to as like a primer for all of this, to explain impermanent loss. Let's see here.
I will find it. Actually, I lost money on ink printer.
Oh, no.
But I must say, the videos are very good. I mean, the educational videos. So I can only recommend the guys to take a look. I saw the PTGC video, so maybe you can see on my profile picture I like PTGC.
I saw that green or that gold ring.
Great video. Thank you.
Hey, no problem. I'm glad I got that one out. You know what? There's not many times you nail the timing on getting content out there, but that was one of the few times where I was like very happy to get that video out in time, because I think a lot of people watched that and did very well. So that was really cool.
Yeah, I watched it yesterday, so I was a bit late, but still, it's all relative, you know. I'm early compared to those who come after. So
that's true.
Everything's fine. I don't want to be too greedy. I'm just grateful. I'm early in Taurus, and I think yeah, I'm very happy.
That's perfect. I'm glad you're here, man. I really am. And let me find this video here. I think it should be this one. This is definitely a little bit of a primer on LP, like just talking about impermanent loss. There's the whole stream, which I go in depth on, just talking about impermanent loss, LP providing, and all this stuff. I don't really talk about limit orders or buy orders too much, I don't believe, but I think there's a lot of good stuff in that. I definitely have a pretty intense spreadsheet. So if you want to see actually how the math works, I would highly recommend looking at that. Just take breaks as you need it, because it's pretty intense.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
No problem. No problem at all.
I'm going to work, so I'll be just passively listening, not disturbing. So
great.
Thank you.
Enjoy your walk, man. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, LP providing is really cool. It's I feel like there's a saying that could be relevant for like, he who understands, or I guess if you don't know, what's the saying? I'm gonna have to think about this before I butcher whatever the hell I'm trying to articulate here. I don't know if anyone wants to ask any more or chime in on the LP side of things, but I think this is a cool conversation. I know Brandon wanted to do an LP workshop, and Amir is big on this too. So maybe we should plan an LP workshop sooner rather than later. I think that might be a good way to do this, because the more educated you guys are, I mean, man, there are going to be so many opportunities in this system. And the more you guys can understand about it, the more you can continue to grow your bags, make passive income, not have to sell the old golden goose, so to speak. And I mean, that's the goal of all this, right? Is to get you guys, get everyone set up as best they can to know how to not have to sell their principal and live an amazing life, sustainably. So I wonder if I could do it Saturday. That might be a little bit too close, honestly. Maybe like Monday or something like that. I could probably do that. I'm gonna get in contact with Brandon and Amir and see if we can do a triple team stream on LP. That would be sweet. I think that's what we'll do. I'll contact them and see. But anyways, how's everyone else going to see? We got Super Dad, we got Samara, we got Sergey, Andrew. Good to see all you in here. Would love to hear from you. And if you have any questions, bring it on. So worried about day 89?
I'm curious about it, but I'm not worried about it.
Say more, man. What are you curious about?
No, I'm looking on Dune, and I'm looking at how many tokens are gonna come out on that day, and I'm curious on what's going to happen to the token price. But I'm not worried.
Let's talk about day 89 in 1 year when Torus is worth $45.
There you go. Oh, love it. Well, I can talk about price though, and the one thing that I really want to hit home is the USD price is obviously it's important because it's like what everyone realizes their value in. But the big thing to understand is that if you want to see how the system is doing, like what state is the system, how much sell pressure actually is there, and what's it doing to Torus relative to TitanX, ignore the USD chart. Not for ignoring it because it doesn't matter, but ignore it in terms of the USD chart does not signify the health of or the current state of Torus. So again, make sure that when you're waiting for these days and you're watching on these days, switch over to not the USD chart, but to the TitanX Torus ratio. That is the place you want to come and look to see how we're doing. If the price goes below 10 million to 1, the system is now basically in staking mode because the ROI is going to be much lower on the creation side than staking. And if it goes way past, you'll potentially see creation go negative, but staking stay positive. And this is the way to understand the health of the system, or like what state we're in really, and not the USD, because what could happen is, right, the USD price could tank if TitanX is tanking, if ETH is tanking, but the ratio of Torus to TitanX could still be like 30 million to 1, 20 million to 1, 10 million to 1, 45 million to 1. And you could think by looking at the Torus USD value, like, oh my God, it's getting crushed. But really, Torus is absolutely crushing it. We are just tied to things that are going down on that day. And that's a big distinction to make. So especially as a lot of supply is coming out, this is the chart to really watch to see exactly what's happening, because it's really easy. Yeah, let's say day 89, for some reason, someone just happens to leave TitanX, right? And then you see a big dump on the price chart. You might think, oh no, we've been hammered. But then for some reason, you click over to the TitanX ratio and you see that we're actually at near all-time highs. And right now we're actually near all-time highs. Even though TitanX is coming down, we're still climbing against TitanX. So this is the big thing to watch as we come to those days, if you want to actually understand how the system is doing in general, and not be disillusioned by the USD value. Obviously it matters, but to get a proper picture on what's actually happening with Torus, see how it's doing systemically, look at the TitanX Torus ratio. See Amir, see Andy, Mark's in here. Good to see you guys. When are we going to hear more about Torus Titans? Today, I am waiting to hear back from Monsieur Ali Kane, and there's going to be a whole lot to talk about there, but that's going to be really exciting. So I was able to share, actually what I'll do is I'm going to read out what I was actually supposed to play in the stream yesterday, but I forgot. because I was going 100 miles an hour. So basically, it's called Torus Titans. How to play is you have entries are open for 1 week or until 200 players register. The entry fee is 0.027 ETH per player. Entry fees will max create Torus, and up to 5 ETH worth of Torus creations go into the prize pool. The top 30 players share the prize pool. The higher you finish, the bigger your cut. And if you want to learn more, go look into Trade Brawl. It's essentially an NFT trading game that is over on Pulse Chain. And effectively, this could be worth a significant amount. And this is kind of like it's like a trading game that's going to happen on top of Torus. So it's not like it's a protocol, but it's a fun little game that, could end up to be very lucrative for those participating. I believe I'm waiting to hear back from Ali. I think he already has done a test with it. So I think people can actually participate if they want to. There is a safe wallet address that you send the ETH to, and then that ETH gets used to immediately go and create Torus. But I don't know if he's actually announced it officially. So people can technically do it, though. I think, if you go to TitanX Harbor or tradebrawl.com, I think it is, or .io. Which one is it? TradeBrawl? Let's see. Tradebrawl.com. And then you go white paper. You can see it. There's all the deets there. Amir, good to see you in here, man. I was just talking about you earlier and saying we should do an LP workshop for like next week. I want to talk to Brandon too, but it'd be great to have one because I want to educate people on the power of providing liquidity underneath the price as your expected sell pressure, and just how much you can earn in fees by doing that if you are utilizing liquidity properly. So I don't know if you'd be up for that, but I would love to get something like that going very soon, because I think as we get closer to actually, when does the cumulative supply really start to tick up? This could actually be something to consider coming soon here, because we are seeing the cumulative supply is going to start ticking up around day 30 all the way to day 58 and beyond. So if people are going to sell then, you could see significant fees, right? For every $1 million that is flowing in sell fees, or in sell or volume, I should say, period, whether it's selling or buying, that's $10,000 in fees that go to LP providers. So I don't know if you want to add anything to that, or if you'd be up for it, but that'd be great.
Yeah, it's a possibility. I mean, I could agree with the sentiment. Like, I'm always looking at the cumulative inflation chart, always like, when's it going to be about like 10,000 Taurus, 20,000 Taurus, all that stuff up until the big day. So, for those who want to DCA Taurus without creating it and kind of following the market, like providing your TitanX below the current market price and ratio would helps the drawdowns, and also gives you fees. But be reasonable where you set your prices. Like, I wouldn't set it at a ratio for 40 million right off the bat, just because you're just kind of providing exit liquidity for the early creators and stakers. Unless you're one of them, then go ahead. Having it under like key levels would be super awesome. And you're incentivized for it. If you want to get Taurus cheap, let the price come to you. Don't have to market buy if you don't want to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I want to echo what you just said in terms of like just understanding the key prices. I've tried to be very clear with like where the system operates. So again, the ratio where the system flips over from creating being more profitable to staking being more profitable in terms of the ROI is around 10 million to 1. And so, I mean, if you're looking to DCA below 10 million to 1, may be the best deal, because then you are literally getting you're literally DCAing Torus when staking is most profitable. So you'd be buying on the market anyways if you wanted to get into Torus, if you're coming in fresh. So the question then becomes, do you want to earn fees from above that point? Do you want to basically try and scoop from a really low point? Like, do you want to aim for the low millions? Like, it just depends on what your goals are. But yeah, I appreciate you echoing that, because understanding the ratio that you're providing in the system is really, really important. Extremely.
Yeah, really excited for the inflation to roll through, see how the system responds. I'm super curious.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think in these next like 30 days, I'd say the next month, probably up to day 50, 58, maybe, and maybe by the end of August, beginning of September, feel like we'll really know how well this system can handle inflation. Because 100,000 tokens, I mean, right now, 100,000 tokens is $1 million. And on the liquidity that we have right now, I mean, that can, like, we have $170,000 in liquidity only because the price is so high relative to TitanX. But if that comes down, let's say around 20 million or 10 million, that could reduce by a factor of 2 or more, right? So that could make for some really volatile times before liquidity is injected.
Yeah, my big key level here would probably be day 46 and a 47. Because we're kind of slowly ramping up to about like doubling the current amount of Torus. Like, that's fine. Takes about a week and a half. And then we kind of like do a big jump of like at least 20,000 Torus. So, or close to it. Not exactly, but it'll be one of the first big spikes for sure.
Yeah, I guess it's a good point, because it's basically double the supply at that point. The supply will, for the first time, have increased by twofold.
Like, it takes to get to 20,000 cumulative inflation, like that's 44 to 45, and then like 2
Yep.
days later we double it. So that's like the first real test, I think.
That's a good call. Yeah, that's going to be, so what, 45 days, it'll probably be end of August, last half of August, I think.
Yeah,
Let's see.
yeah. And then there's a bit of a reprieve. I mean, the inflation still goes up pretty fast because we're talking 20,000 existing, so relatively speaking, it goes up fast. But we get a bit of a break with those jumps in the 50s.
Right. Well, other thing to consider too here is that's the 44-day mark. And
for
that's
stakers, yeah.
for stakers. And so as we get to that mark, I don't know what the stakers are going to want to do. And, let's say hypothetically, if Unity comes out prior to this point, could we see, even more EESing, early end staking, and leaving during that time?
I think thankfully, it couldn't be that much, because if they're just getting their principal back, they're still working with the same 20,000 Taurus that we all started with. So it might be pennies
Which
by
is
day
still,
44.
that's true. Which is, I think, is actually like quite a good thing, because it's not significant amount of supply, but it could still bring the price down a little bit, which, would be optimal for the system building itself. So that could actually be quite a good thing. In some respects, obviously, price coming down is price coming down, and we all want the price to be high, but it's got to come down at some point, and that could be a nice way to bring the price down and start getting the system set up properly.
Yeah, I think like there's about, it says like there's 60,000 stake Taurus to be created from day 89 to 91. But that's including all of the daily payouts. So the principal Taurus required to make all that much, if I were to try to create that now, 60,000 Taurus at the end of it.
Are
That's
you
like 20,000 power, maybe
okay? Yeah.
less, like 18,000 power. So that's like less than 2,000 Taurus that was used to stake to make all that.
Oh yeah, that's nothing then.
Yeah, and then the supply by then will be like doubled, so it'll be like 40,000. So that's like playing with super rough numbers, but 40,000 tokens total. 2,000 tokens staked, probably.
It's like 5%.
Yeah.
That's nothing.
At least at the time, right?
Mhm.
Day 44 is plus, yeah. Yep. So probably see a drawdown, but not a lot. It'll be compounded with the fact it's day 44 to day 45, or sorry, day 46 to 47 is a big spike in inflation. It's probably going to line up with that pretty nicely. If people in, early and stake. Not sure if they will, who knows?
I mean, the yields have been so good. I mean, that'd be hard to pass up, honestly.
Yeah.
But people could have shiny object syndrome. You know how it is. So
Yeah. I'm fine with that too. Like I want the supply to come out of the hands a little faster. Buy and burns can do what they want to do. Get more tokens that way. So if they want to sell, that's fine. More for the people who want more. So
well, and they're actually burning a significant amount of tokens too by doing that. So
yeah. That'll, if they unstake, that'll be great for all the numbers. It takes out some of the inflation again, spreads it out even further out. It's fascinating. Watching that chart. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's going to be like, I'm really wondering, because the first, like, pre-day 89 has 2 million tokens coming out cumulatively. And then day 89, it spikes up to 2.3. So basically, there's a 50% supply increase in a day, but having basically 2 million tokens, and this is going to lower, I'm assuming, because of the way the system works and as more creations come in. But right now, we're going to have 2 million tokens have already come out by day 88. So we might have, I think there's a possibility that the worst selling will possibly have already come pre-day 89.
There's a chance. I think a lot of people, I think it really depends on what ROIs people are seeing when their stakes come due or their creations come due. If the price draws down quicker, I don't know how. I think people might be more likely to stake more of their tokens for long again. It'll be interesting because by day 89, like, everyone can kind of see, like, oh, what price impact all these tokens are gonna have. Like, am I just gonna stake it? Like, maybe it's just better to hold them, because the staking game changes so much. Like, I'm really curious about how many cumulative shares are going to exist in the system as it goes up. This was designed so interesting or well, such that, like, the shares kind of scale up as the inflation comes in. There's always a decent cap on, like, the physics of the system. There's, like, a definite cap on, like, how much Torus would appear in the LP pool, because they're leaving so much potential yield on the table. Maybe, like, you wouldn't sell it. So makes people choose. It's really cool, and you'll get to see the decisions on the price chart, on the staking chart, on the whole thing. So it's all in concert. It's pretty cool.
That's honestly going to be one of the most interesting things to see is that share rate. Because that was one of the decisions in making this. It was like, it needs to force people to think twice about leaving, So
it's slow enough too. It's, like, just slow enough to where it's like, yeah, you could just take your principal, take your profit, take whatever you want out. But, like, you might not feel it then, but you look away for some time, look back and, like, whoa. Because I think the cumulative shares right now is north of, like, 2.25 billion or something like that. It's just steadily going up, steadily goes up. Usually it's just spikes and then it just stays at the same number forever. But this slow, gradual up is, like, pretty cool.
Well, and to add to that too, it's like when we get into the staking period, this is where things get potentially really interesting, because now, like, in when you're creating, you don't have the same capacity to, like, end your stake early. And at that point, people that are going to be staking this after day 89 are likely to have like their nest egg, right? They're going to have like their base that they've earned that they're really stoked on. And so we could start to see that same process we saw in Hex where people are EESing, right? A lot of this supply that's supposed to come out is actually deferred further and further and further into the future, right? Decentralizing it more, smoothing that out, and also burning a ton of supply and increasing the ROI for people in the pool, which could then draw in new demand. And obviously I have no idea what kind of actual outcome we're going to see, but to me that recipe I think could be very, very powerful in how it ends up making the system perform, even within the first staking cycle, I'll call it, the second 88-day cycle.
Yeah, that'd be cool to see what people leave on the table. It's both deflationary and brings that future supply sooner. It like double whammies the large inflation spikes because there's less of it on the major inflation spike, and then also more tokens earlier come out for the other creators and stakers too.
Yeah, that's true.
We'll probably see bigger. It's probably the second, that we have the first 88 days where people are heavily creating. It's probably in that second wave of creations if people want to do another set of 88-day creations where we see like more early end staking. After like an initial dump, people buy and stake, and then those are the people who would emergency on stake in day like 100, whatever, 120, 130.
Yeah, that might be one of the most exciting periods, is that first staking period.
Yeah, because it doesn't happen at the same time as the first creation period. There's no supply to stake really. The price really needs to chop down if people want to buy and stake. I really feel like there's a good amount of side TitanX just waiting for like. I think a lot of people learned in some of these protocols that like it's better to wait sometimes, not all the time, but like if you're really keen on the protocol and if you want better price entry, like you wait. You really don't go in heavy unless you're creating. Then it's like, yeah, okay, you can go create. But some people just like don't do that. I guess if that makes sense.
100%. Yeah.
Like people just don't mess with protocols sometimes.
Well, I've seen a lot of that. People are like, oh, I'm just going to wait for the first price dip. I'm just going to wait for this. I'm going to wait. It's all classic. It always happens. It always does the same thing. I'm just going to wait for that. Why would I go in early?
Yeah. You can't like stop that really. Like it's good. You're going to have those people, but that's what's going to be like, that's kind of what's going to fuel the next 88-day cycle almost, is the market doing its thing. Like I think people will hopefully get their, see the incentive for themselves and kind of reach for it.
Yeah, you're bringing up an interesting point, actually. And then I think a lot of people are either on the sidelines, they're sleeping on Torus, fading it, whatever, that are in the ecosystem, that those who aren't participating. And I'm wondering, when people see that day 89, 90, 91 or whatever, if Torus holds its own, relatively well, and people made out with an ROI that they're like, oh shit, I actually missed out big time. There's a potential where people undervalue something, they overvalue it. And that overvaluation could be very interesting on how it would play in the system, because you'd have people buying up the price, and then at some point they'd be going back in and creating as well. And I mean, honestly, I could almost see like this period of day 88 to about maybe high 90s being a pretty pivotal point for Torus proving itself to people that are on the sidelines.
Yeah, I mean, you saw a market already buying Torus up to like, just to buy and stake it up to a price of 40 million TitanX for Torus.
Yeah,
if they're gonna buy it there, I don't know who they are. I think someone's gonna buy it at 10 million. I think someone's gonna buy it at 5. I think people are gonna chew through it at like, if it gets low enough. But if you're responsible and doing your thing, like the price shouldn't matter, really. Yeah.
That's a good point, actually. Yeah, people
doing
are buying.
It right, price shouldn't matter.
Yeah, exactly. You're going to be smart still, but
yeah,
seeing that price chew up all the way to the 40 millions, it does imply that if it's in demand there, then it will be really in demand, most likely, or at least we could say that there's a high likelihood of, as prices go lower and those tokens are more accessible, right, that the demand for staking should potentially actually increase over that period as well, which is really interesting.
Yeah, it's really about creating opportunity, and I think the system allows for that. Like, but just because you create opportunity doesn't mean people can't mess it up, right? Like, it's
Oh, for sure, of course.
so, and we see it time and time again, and it's usually that's the vocal minority, right? I mean, if it's poorly built, then it's not gonna. It might be a vocal majority, but I think right now it's the way the system has been chugging along, very balanced. Nothing too. I mean, we're gonna see the swings, but relative to the rest of crypto, these swings are, little skips. It's nothing too crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. I keep thinking about what you're saying about the staking side. Now I'm realizing I almost want to go back to the liquidity stuff for a second, because
Yeah, please.
if the just on the staking side, okay, so there was demand for staking up to about 45 million TitanX to Torus, right?
Yeah, believe it or
So
not, right?
this is actually something important to consider when it comes to thinking about providing liquidity, because now we've kind of put up this framework where there are going to be sellers, so there's volume to the downside. We know that there's going to be that to some degree, right? And now the system has already shown us to some extent that there is demand also for staking, which means there's also additional buy pressure. Both those sides are the same coin, or both those are two sides of volume, right? And those are two sides of where LP providers earn from. So
You bet.
the thing that I'm wanting to echo here for everyone that hasn't quite picking up what I'm putting down here is that I was talking about $1 million in sell pressure equals $10,000 in fees for LP providers. However, if you add in potential massive demand for staking, I mean, LP providing during this period where there's a lot of volatility, there's a battle between people wanting to come into the system and people that want to come out of the system. This could be, especially because there is some of the highest, I guess you could say, volume coming into the pool with the lowest amount of protocol owned liquidity, meaning the fees will mostly go to the users, versus in the future when liquidity is massive, right? The protocol is going to be the one taking in most of the fees at that point. So this could be an opportunity actually coming up as supply starts to come out for this first time, that might not show its face again to the same degree, to DCA into Torus if you wanted to just earn fees, support the protocol, however you want to view that. But I mean, you think I'm off the mark here, or do you want to add anything, or what are you thinking on that front?
I see where you're coming from. It's the only, I think, thing is you're just paying more of a slight premium on the tokens because you want to catch the first dip. So that's not to say that there could be more tokens at a cheaper price available later. But I think as like a first, if you are chasing fees, you would get the most fees before most of the inflation and before the protocol owned liquidity is too big. I agree with you from that standpoint.
Right.
If the objective is to acquire the most amount of Torus at the best value, there's an argument to be made where you could still wait. But to your point, yeah, I think it's the closest guarantee to like most Torus for your buck, potentially.
Right. Well, you raised that's a good distinction of like, yeah, they're two different plays. One is to go for the fees, and one is to go for the most Torus. Yeah, because you would definitely want to provide a different range for getting the most Torus versus getting the most fees in this scenario.
Yeah, because you would need to have your minimum price be like, oh, maybe it won't dip to like cheaper than 5 million Torus, TitanX per Torus, right? Something like that. Whereas if you're just like, I'm gonna sit and wait for the bottom, like you'd probably set it way low.
Yeah. Well, exactly. And you won't earn a lot of fees doing that, but you'll get a ton of Torus.
Eventually, and you'll get the fees along the way. It depends on the liquidity structure, but yeah, you're competing against the protocol owned liquidity, which is least competitive early on. So
exactly. And I just wanted to make sure people understand that, like, if you're going to go for fees and you're going to play the liquidity game, you have the least competition now. And obviously it also makes it, potentially harder to play because the volatility is less predictable because there's less support from the protocol initially. But I think it's just an interesting conversation. Yeah, we got to do more education on that as well.
I like looking at the position. I like looking at the protocol own position sometimes on revert, and man, I think it burns like, oh gosh, I already can't remember. It's maybe 18 Torus a day right now, something like that.
That's not
and all the
bad.
selfies. No, it's not bad at all, dude. And once the inflation starts to kick in, like, can you imagine, like, okay, let's day 89 inflation is okay, two and a quarter million. 1% of that is like 25,000, 22,000 Taurus. If that all sells, that's like 22,000 burn, just like off rip, like I don't care if it sells, like the supply is gonna go away very quickly.
Oh yeah, that's such a good point. Yeah, that's gonna any of these big unlocks could mean a huge amount of. So here's the thing to add to that. It's like, yeah, if you get, let's say in the future for staking, like in the second cycle, you have people that are EESing and then they just like sell their bag. They've burnt 50% of what they've earned to that point, and then they've also burnt 1% of the stack that they've just sold. You could see huge amounts of Torus burnt from that. Honestly, that could be one of the more significant burning mechanisms in Torus in the future.
Oh yeah, people sell.
Yep, that was like a 1% tax. Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah, and if you're talking in TitanX terms, it's crazy, right? Like, there's only 125 million tokens, like in Torus. It's not much, and the inflation seems like a lot right now, but you know where the cap is headed, and it's I feel like it's such a different liquidity structure, or sorry, inflation tokenomic structure compared to like other build on TitanX protocols lately, where I think some of the vaults were relying on like the buyback from the LP, but this scheduled inflation is kind of provides a different level of stability and like keeping that separate from the LP, I guess. So I can kind of get the idea that supply should just kind of get shut out in like a month's time or so, time is of the essence kind of stuff. Like that makes sense in some regard, but for Taurus, nah, this setup is fire.
Oh, I'm glad you love it, man. Yeah, it's operating better than I hoped it would, which is, I guess, best case scenario. So
yeah, I'm looking for that first dump. I'm maybe not the first dump, but I'm definitely keeping an eye on the ratio and looking to support a certain price. So
I mean, that's a good sign to me, because if you're saying that, I can't imagine that you're alone, which is a really great sign that, there's only going to be so low of a price relative to, or even for so long, and this is with only the amount of people that we have in Torus right now. I mean, that's the cool thing, is like, if there is demand now and this system can, or I guess the price can be bought back up, I can only imagine when we get significant amounts of participation, it's just going to scale over time. And that's huge. And I mean, it is going to show the need at some point for probably additional utility. But like I said, just wait. Stuff may be coming or not. We'll see.
yeah, man, Taurus or farms would be such a supply sink, and we'll beat the drum till it happens. But you already know it, and hopefully it's not too annoying to hear it over and over again. But
Nope, it's definitely not. I want you guys to keep that in mind, and I want you guys to be excited about that stuff, because I mean, like I said, I'm going to try everything I can. I want to see this in farms. I want to see this in Ouroboros. I want to see more and more and more utility for people in the Torus system.
I almost think waiting for the first bout of inflation to happen first to get an idea of where the liquidity is going to sit. I think it'll sit on a stronger foundation price wise and system wise after that first wave, just because, yeah, we could have like all the current supply, like bought up, sent into farms, people buy, put into farms, Ouroboros like set up, people buy, throw it into the without realizing the day 88 to 89 unlocks are coming, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
That like puts people under a lot of risk for no reason, I think. Well, I say a lot, could be 10 people, but it's I want it to happen before the inflation because I don't want to see I just want the inflation to go there to the protocols. But then like I don't know. With all the price volatility, maybe wait for it to settle.
It's a tricky one, honestly, because if you get it out, early, like you're saying, there's actually a couple good things. One is farms generates a bunch of volume, and that helps Tink,
It does.
right? That helps the APR. It supports the protocol. It's going to generate a lot of burned Torus. Well, if more people can sell because there's more liquidity, more selling might happen, more compounding might happen, which helps to burn more Torus and so
True.
on, right? And if the farms is out, it's likely that the price is in a ratio that the system should operate in. And therefore, the buy and build can also be working away potentially during that time. That would just make sense, right? If farms is out, it's probably because the range is there, and that range is going to be a perfect opportunity for the buy and build to do its thing as well. So, adding those two things up, that is definitely a good case for. I can see, the case against is definitely, I can see all the case against is the volatility for sure. It's that, oh my God, we're going to come down. It's going to get smashed. It's going to go way down. And these people are going to kind of be stuck. Now, I actually have a rebuttal to that.
After it's gone up. It would have gone up because of it first.
Right. Exactly. Right. Well, and the thing too that I would say is if it's gone up and then it comes crashing down, we don't know, one, the scale at which it will come down, but two, we already know that there is demand for staking. So the question then becomes, how long does it stay down? Because we all know that impermanent loss is only an issue when something starts high and stays low, or starts low and stays high, right? So if something can go from point A to point B and back to point A again, in terms of liquidity providing, there's no issue really. There's fees being earned the whole time. And so that's obviously a speculation, but I can actually see a pretty strong argument for getting farms out relatively quickly versus waiting. But I can also see the danger, not danger, but the potential emotional roller coaster ride that it could put people in for, getting it out earlier as well, pre-day 89.
Yeah, no, that's a good discussion there. I think, yeah, I like that point too. I think for me, coming into it as like, oh, but if I'm gonna acquire Taurus, like I kind of want it at the best price for me. So I'm like, what? It could just set the price where I want it and just wait and have it go, or kind of like have it sit for a while and like get that more certainty of the price. And then I'm like, okay, this is definitely where I want it. It's kind of like reducing my risk as trying to acquire more Taurus at a better price if I can get it. So if understanding that the volatility is going to exist, I'm better off just, just set it lower and kind of relax and wait and see. Wide but low,
Mm-hmm.
Catch the price where I feel like, it helps me set my range mentally, kind of how I want to play it, if that makes sense. Because sometimes people will look at liquidity and be like, oh, it's just like this liquidity won't even get tapped. It's just like like 100K of TitanX, let's say, and it's like set like at a ridiculously low price. That's like, okay, I'm not even sure if this is going to be used or tapped, kind of thing. Not that I have that much, not that I have that much, but it's like, playing with that idea.
No, these are great thoughts to have, and I appreciate you sharing with everyone else too, because there is so much consideration that needs to go into playing LP games, especially at times like this where there's potentially so much supply coming out, and there's just so many different variations or so many different scenarios that can play out. You really got to be thoughtful.
Yeah, it'll be awesome to see how the buy and build, buy and burns, and all that. Like even at 1% right now, it's firing. Just awesome to see at 1%. It's going at its rate,
Well, that's it's literally only going like maybe a third of the time that it should if we were a little more cranked up. So you can only imagine when this thing is rocking and rolling. I mean, it's going to be doing some serious damage in a good way.
Wow, I can't believe, we're at 100K ETH in the buy and burn Torus ETH. Crazy.
I know, it's just insane. 100K. Well, we also have 140K.
Is
But
the
the 40K is in
fractal,
the
does the
fractal.
fractal go straight to the buy and burn? Buy and build is separate. Okay, cool.
Yeah. So that's all for the buy and burn. The buy and build still has 60K in ETH, 143K in in TitanX. So we're probably gonna have, so this I would assume this is, you could say, close to $1 trillion. TitanX, that at current ratios, prices, etc., would end up in the liquidity pool already. So I mean, that's a great start. And also all the buy and burn is going to end up in the liquidity pool, but obviously it's not, it's not quite the same, but all this would end up in the LP in one way or another.
Yep. That's right.
So we're going to have possibly 2 point something trillion run through the LP at some point here. Or more, actually. Yeah, more, because we have the fractal as well. So, oh man, we're set up, guys. I'm really excited to see how this all plays out. We are probably 20 or so days away from really seeing some of the more impactful days begin and really see the system be tested. So it's going to be quiet, I think, over the next little while, and we just share and talk about it online, and share your ROIs, talk about what you're seeing, get people excited about it. But the real story is going to start, in the next month, I would say. Yeah, like you were saying, we get up to around the 40th day, and we get up to 40,000 tokens coming out. I think that's when we start to really see a whole lot of conversation pieces come forward. So I'm excited, man. I'm thankful you guys are all here. And Amir, I appreciate you coming up and hanging with me for as long as you did, because I always love hearing your thoughts.
No problem, man. Thanks for having me up.
Oh, anytime, man. Real quick before we wind this one down, because I do got to hop over to the other chat room, and I'm gonna have a call there at 10, I guess in 35 minutes. Does anyone else have any questions or anything they want to bring up before I shut this chat down? Any commentary, ideas, blah, blah, blah?
Yeah, I had a quick question for you.
Samara.
With the staking versus creation ROI, obviously I've looked at the formulas in the white paper, and I understand that they both draw on the same collective pool in terms of shares, right?
Yes.
However, I remember you saying in the last stream, or one of the recent ones, that the numbers on the staking ROI won't be nearly as high when you're going to do the staking process as we get down to that 10 million range. Is that just based upon the formula and the way that it, I guess it's just because it's a different cost basis and you're staking. I was just trying to wrap my head around how that works, because ultimately when you're doing the staking process, you're vying for the same amount of shares, or you're you're vying for the same pool and whatever proportion you can get at that time period. So the shares are always going to be, I'm not having the right words for this, but I don't know if you're getting what I'm trying to figure out. But
I think so.
It really just comes down to how the shares are assessed versus the formula for the ROI in the creation interface or the user interface.
Yeah. So the staking ROI is an ROI that's more similar to Hex APY or like a token APY, where if you stake 100 tokens and you get 100 tokens in you're earned, you're going to get 100% APY. And that's static. That's like not dependent on price, right? Price could go to whatever, up or down. And that APY is still technically, well, it'll be the same because you're earning 100% in tokens, right? Yeah. Because the creation ROI has a cost basis, not in token terms, but in TitanX, there's a relative value there that can be extremely volatile. So creation ROI can go to, as we're seeing, 16, 17, 18, 20,000%. And then it can also go to negative 92. All the while, staking ROI was stable basically the whole time, right? Yeah. And it barely moved.
So it's a cost basis that just makes the numbers seem so out of proportion.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the other thing to understand too is the way I designed it was the middle point of the system, which starts at 10 million, is essentially where if you buy on the market and you stake, the value of what you're buying and staking is the same as if you were just going to take TitanX and deposit it in, right?
Yep, got it.
If the price of Torus goes up against TitanX, now if you buy on the market, because the price of Torus is higher, you're paying more for less shares. So you're getting a bad deal on the shares in the system versus creating as the higher the price goes, right? Yep. So this is like a seesaw back and forth between a deal on shares. This is how these prices kind of operate here, or the system operates. And so when it goes back down, where now we're below that 10 million to 1, now you're getting a bad deal through creation, and you're getting more shares in the system by buying on the market and then going back in. But if you want to see the, I guess, the concentration and I would say maybe the dilution level or the participation level in the system in general, you can look at the staking ROI. And because that's going to tell you if the ROI is still like 3,000%, there's not a lot of people, there's not a lot of shares in the system, right? If the ROI is coming down to, like, for staking, let's say that's like 50% or 40% or 30%, then there's a lot of people in the pool because that's a stable ROI. And that's saying based on the shares in the pool, on like a Hex APY term, not even talking about dollar ROIs, this is what the ROI is. And that's important to understand, to be able to go and see, okay, the pool is still wide open because there's 3,000% ROI, or okay, the pool is getting pretty jammed. There's only 50% or 30% or 10% ROI happening over the next 88 days.
Got it. Yeah. Yeah. I had my head wrapped around at one point and I was like, wait a minute, how's that? It's just so easy to lose the most obvious kind of stuff in front of you, but thanks for putting that back straight.
Of course, man. Yeah. It's a lot of weird stuff in the system. So I'm always happy to repeat myself as many times as I need to.
Yeah, it's a lot to hold as a model, especially when you start adding in all these externalities like a new protocol, half stake timing, EES, and all the pushing around of liquidity. It's just interesting. It's gonna be really cool as we get to this halfway point. I think it's gonna be fun. The real fireworks start to show up.
Yeah, I actually can't wait for that point. It's fun now seeing all the ROIs and seeing everything tick away and work perfectly. But yeah, watching the system go through its first stress tests. Oh my God, I can't wait for that. Because I designed the system to show its full power when it's under duress, not when the price is going up. So that's to me, this is the most important phase coming up. If things go well over this, then it's like, okay, it's actually working as intended, as designed. And that would be unbelievable to see that.
Yeah. I found it interesting that you're saying you think around 88, 89, you could see some of the highest performance and people getting the protocol getting the most notice, which is counterintuitive. Obviously, like with TitanX, we had our full time schedule then lead to a 10x pump. But you're saying actually on the 88, 89 day, that just because maybe that's just because TitanX ramps up and ETH ramps up, we're on a perfect kind of arc right now with that. Is that how you're assessing that, or is there other stuff you can't talk about?
Well, no, I can talk about this completely, and it actually has nothing to do with ETH or TitanX specifically. It's more to do with the sentiment around people being like, oh, this thing's just going to do what every other protocol did. It's going to have a big supply shock and blah, blah, blah. And I'm going to wait for the price to come down. But they've been watching and people are noticing and not participating. And I just had this feeling that if the system is showing, or if Torus is showing that there's demand for staking and people are already, selling and then buying and staking a little bit and it's holding the price up. And then not only that, but when day 89 comes, there isn't a major correction to the degree that everyone thought in like a fear porn or like a doomsday kind of scenario. And in fact, people are actually buying. I mean, that to me is where people's expectations are shattered and they have this opportunity then to see, oh, wow, this is something different. Because that's such a monumental shift away from them thinking, oh yeah, day 89, it's going to plummet. And when there shows to be, even if it does plummet, even if demand comes in and the price gets bought up for staking, I think that's when people have the opportunity to see, oh, this is truly something different. And so I think that's actually the most monumental point there, the most pivotal point as that kind of unravels itself into day 89, 90.
Got it. Yeah. Just the dynamic of the ROI drawing people back in.
Exactly.
Yep.
And as we get closer to that day too, let's say creations start to taper off. What you guys are going to see if the price stays relatively where it is, the ROI is going to keep creeping up because the way that the system is reading the ROIs, it's looking into the future. And it's seeing who's got shares on each of the days. And as people stop creating, there become empty days, which raise the average or lower the average shares in the pool over the future projections, which means that ROI projection is going to get higher and higher and higher and higher, basically tempting people to come back in, right? And this is such a powerful mechanic in and of itself that is going to make people think twice or three times before they want to leave this system when the ROIs are creeping up, even after maybe like a 50 or 60% correction, to show like 15,000 or 20,000% ROI, and maybe even 5,000% on the staking ROI. So all this added together, I just can't wait to see what happens as we get closer to this.
Yeah, it's a perfect protocol to just have chaos surrounding, which is crypto. So way to design basically what you designed is like one of those electrical generator wave machines. They put them on the coast and the tide just moves them back and forth. I just generate electricity. I was like, yeah, how come we haven't done that more? That's effectively what the system does, right? It's back and forth either way. You're just pumping the system up.
I like that analogy, actually. That's a great way to put that.
Yeah, it's, and so the more chop, the better, really. Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to watch. And we've talked about this before, and maybe I'll start wrapping it up after I say this, unless you have anything else you wanted to.
No, that was a major thing I was trying to wrap my head around. So thanks for that. I know you got other
of course.
Stuff, so.
Yeah, no sweat at all. The last thing I wanted to say on the supply front too, and on the staking front is, if staking over this first cycle, call it this first 100 days, can prove itself to have significant demand, then the effect that it's going to have, the staking is going to have on TitanX is actually going to be insane just because of what I've talked about before, where as the difficulty increases in the system and it gets harder to stake and the supply expands, you are effectively getting into the scenario where there's quite possibly not literally going to be enough TitanX for people to actually stake in this system. And the demand for it, if it's there, is going to cause TitanX to skyrocket in price potentially. And, you know, I say that in a hypothetical scenario, but it's also in how the system is designed. Because as we go through time, let's say we go to the 1,000 day mark where there's around 60 million tokens, and the staking fees are around 500 million for like 480 tokens. That means that effectively for 50% of the supply to be staked, assuming that there's going to be demand still at that point, over 38 trillion TitanX is required because of the dynamics between the supply expansion and the difficulty level going up. And this is only going to keep increasing over time,
Yeah,
and more and more TitanX is going to be required to stake.
Yeah, I spent a few hours wrapping my head around that one. I found it very fascinating, that dynamic. And that's actually why I asked for more detail about staking, is because I believe that one of the biggest misses that the thing that people aren't really seeing, and a fundamental opportunity is at some point as we get onto this arc of creation ROI diminishing and the end of this 88 cycle, pushing into the second 88-day cycle, there's going to be a window there for creating on a large scale, pushing into that second cycle where people are going to want to early in stake. You're going to have a lot more volatility in the market. You're going to have the scare end of the world scenarios and everybody wants out. So you just have a lot more volatility in that second 88-day cycle. And if you're in the pool creating through those days, you're just getting all that volatility ROI.
Well said.
Am I missing something in that?
No, I think if I understood you right, then yeah, people are, if they're EESing, you know, people are getting their ROIs are going to be cranked up when for the people that are still in the pool.
Yeah. So if you're in the pool through creations from the middle to the end of this cycle, pushes you out into the middle end of the second cycle, you're going to be in the pool at a higher rate with a higher share rate.
That's true. Yeah.
Compared to all these people ESing and having to try to buy back it at a higher cost basis with less TitanX.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So there's a window there where it's going to be so much harder because of the cost basis and the diminishing amounts compared to the amount of Torus that you need to stake. So there's a window there where those opportunities ramp down and the pool ROI ramps up.
Mm-hmm. Well, and the other thing you got to consider too is that, well, especially to the ROI, is that if the majority of people choose to stake, the ROI for creation, if the prices stay the same, would approximately go down by a factor of 8, because there are so much Torus that would be entering the pool that the ROI would go from like 16,000 to about 2,000% ROI for creation, and that would lower the staking ROI by a factor of 8 as well. Not everyone's going to stake, right? It's just an impossibility. Yeah. But this is going to mean that if people are trying to buy in at higher prices to get in during the second window, they might have missed the only opportunity to get these outsized ROIs that everyone in the first cycle saw, because now they're getting way less, they're paying more to get in the system, and simultaneously their ROI is 1/8 of what it could have been had they gone in. And now their earning power is diluted by 1/8 as well. So it just goes on and on and on for people that are waiting to get in terms of the missed opportunity potentially.
Yeah, fascinating. Huh.
Tomorrow, talk to you guys soon. Again, tomorrow morning. Yeah, tomorrow morning I should still be doing one. I don't know if I'll be doing a call Sunday though. But thanks everyone for your time. Have a wonderful day. And we will chat again very soon. See y'all.